Hi everyone. Today we're going to talk about stimulation versus aliveness. I think this is a really important topic. Before we get started, I just want to invite you to take a couple of relaxed breaths and relax into your heart. It's such a simple thing to do, but it gives you a whole different perspective, and you start listening from a whole different place. So that's my invitation to you, just to listen from that place. I did a little research because somebody I know is about to start a 2-year training in a breathwork process, and I have a lot of experience with breathwork and pranayama with my yogic background and all of that stuff. And the way this person was talking about this training, I thought, well, I'm going to go check it out, and I did, with an open curiosity because of my background and experience, and it stimulated my wanting to talk about stimulation versus true aliveness. Have you ever done a spiritual practice or some kind of breath work and come out feeling high, but not necessarily whole? I noticed in this. I'm not going to name the training program. I'm not going to name what this practice is called. It doesn't really matter because I'm not here to judge anybody's path or anybody's choices. It's just that I noticed this subtle contrast between stimulation and coherence. When I practiced, I did the sort of free available practice that this school of breathwork is touting, and I thought, well, let me see what this is all about. Even a familiar technique like breathwork can serve very different energy streams depending on where it's anchored. I noticed right away with this particular breathwork, and this particular meditation, which is sort of the flagship of their school, that this was a very mind-based protocol, a very mind-based mental protocol, beautifully produced, great music, compelling language and affirmations and all of this, but it was all about activating the power of the mind, using the breath to access different brainwave states. Now, we obviously know that different breaths activate different brainwave states. Yeah, that's normal. That's part of what pranayama does. But it was really about claiming all kinds of things through mental focus, claiming abundance through mental focus. Like you can have anything you want through your mind. So my question is, and I felt kind of like, as I was going through the process, I was like, this is not for me. Where was the heart? Where was the love? So we've got two energy streams here in spiritual approach. The mind versus the heart, okay? So mind energy spirituality, and I'm speaking from experience here because I was in mind and energy spirituality for a long time. Mind energy spirituality tends to focus on stimulation, control, activation, ascension, achievement, getting somewhere, right? Often bypassing the heart or bypassing, let's say, the deeper emotional body. Heart energy spirituality centers on presence, on coherence, on compassion, on deep listening, on holding all of your light and all of your shadow in the same space, on gentle awakening and remembrance. All right, and I think it's important for us to be able to distinguish between these two streams because it can be very deceiving. The mind wants to experience. The heart wants to remember. The mind seeks power. The heart knows truth. The mind says, I can manifest anything, right? The heart says, I already am everything. So you can feel the two contrasting energies of these approaches. So many popular spiritual modalities, even breath work, feed back into the same loop of trying to get somewhere or trying to get something, right? And it's often driven by a fear of stillness, a fear of being with what is. And it's no surprise because we were brought up in a cult of stimulation, which has caused us to lose touch with subtlety. Why do we chase stimulation in the first place? Well, because we've been trained to. That is part of our programming, where we live in a world that is addicted to feeling something, but not the truth of our being, just the rush, the hit, the drama, the noise, the distraction, right? We're constantly being distracted by stimulation. Some examples. Most of us mistake being stimulated for being alive, for feeling alive. We think that that's what it is to be alive, is to be stimulated. No. But we've been raised on a steady diet of fast food, convenient food that's full of, chemicals and spices and, taste bud stimulants that are addictive. We've been raised on fast media, now fast scrolling, fast dopamine hit, fast relationships, all stimulating, but they're ultimately empty, which is why there's so much despair. Even spirituality gets twisted into this, stimulant with breathwork highs, energy buzzes, endless activations, constantly trying to feel more. I know, because I was caught up in that. And I thought that I had somewhere to get so that I would finally be enlightened. It's not true. That'll keep you chasing forever. You're already enlightened. You're already what you are underneath all this noise. The noise is a distraction to keep you from discovering that. When that really hit home, I was like, oh, joke's on me. Joke is totally on me. They got me. Oh, they got me good. That's all fine. That's part of the game. I mean, this is the same programming that makes us think that a relationship has to be intense to be meaningful. That drama means depth, that tears and fights mean passion. That's not intimacy. That's entrainment to chaos. And it's a sign of unhealed wounds, right? Projection, all of that stuff. So stimulation, it trains us to override our subtle signals to the point where we can't feel or hear them anymore. Over time, we lose the ability to feel the quiet guidance of the heart, the gentle nudge of the soul. Right? Sometimes people ask me, well, how do I know if it's my intuition or if it's fear? I'm like, well, fear feels like fear. right? Intuition is a subtle feeling of knowing. It's a knowingness that you can't explain. It's a non-linear guidance that you just know. Your knower knows, right? So instead of becoming more aware with this constant stimulation, we're becoming more numb. I'm sure that you felt that. If you get lost in the scroll, it's like you get numb. And so then what do? Well, we compensate by seeking more stimulation because we feel numb. So this is the inversion. We're not overstimulated because we feel too much. We're overstimulated because we've lost touch with our capacity to feel. Stimulation becomes a replacement for subtlety. I know a lot of people don't like hearing that. But when we can't feel our subtlety, we become gross, right? That's when you start to believe that you're this body, that you're this person, and that all you have to look forward to is your next high, right? Whether it comes in the form of food or drama or sex or drugs or entertainment, right? Looking for the next high, right? And spirituality definitely can fall into that, right? Like, I got to get my high, I got to do my breathing so I can get high. That's not the point, guys. And again, I'm not judging. I am not throwing any shade here. I was definitely caught up in all of that. That's why I know the difference now. So, we become gross in the sense that not just physically, but energetically, emotionally, spiritually, we lose grace, we lose refinement, we lose listening. We become reactive. We're not in resonance, right? And you can see this all over the internet. Look at the way people argue with each other. Look at the way people get triggered. They're like, and that's a lack of refinement. If you cannot hold contradiction within you without freaking out and having to declare your opinion, you've lost subtlety. Okay? So maybe we could have like a little brief moment of just embodied attunement right here, right? You don't have to interrupt your day to do it. You can do this as you're going through your day. Just put your hand on your heart for a moment, slow your breath, soften your inner gaze, right? And just feel for what is there beneath the noise. It's a great thing to do while you're in the noise, right? You don't have to be like, I got to go into a quiet place. Try to find that quiet space within yourself when you're surrounded by the noise. That's when it's really interesting, because then you'll realize that the silence is always there beneath the noise. The subtlety, you can still feel the subtlety in the presence of stimulation, in the presence of the noise and the distraction. Okay, so this is the heart's field. When you're tuning into that, it won't shock you, it won't wow you. It's not like neon lights of Vegas, which is what they want you to stimulate you to feel with so-called false light spirituality. The heart will welcome you home. It's not splashy, but it is extremely subtle. Even sincere spiritual seekers, and I will put my hand up, I was one of them, often are unknowingly led into the false light matrix through practices that overactivate the upper centers and disconnect us from the heart, from embodiment. Pineal obsession, chasing bliss, addiction to the light, hyper focus on manifestation and personal power without necessarily the purification of intent behind that, co-opted affirmations that anchor the will of the ego without necessarily checking in with the will of the soul, right? It's everywhere. And you've got to be subtle to catch that stuff. It's not that the practices like this are bad or wrong. It's just that they can bypass the heart while giving the illusion of spiritual advancement. Once again, I'll put my hand up. I'm not judging anybody. I'm talking about this because I've been there. I know this experience, right? You heard me mention the term false light matrix. Sometimes when I talk about that, I get a blank look. So I realize that might sound confusing or even off-putting if you're new to it. So let me just give you a simple way to think about it. Break it down gently. The false light matrix is a layer of reality that mimics truth, okay? But it isn't true. It mimics love, but it isn't love. It mimics freedom, but it still traps you in a system. Sneaky, sneaky stuff. It's like spiritual junk food, right? It tastes good, it lights up your senses, but it doesn't actually nourish you. So some examples, okay. Practices or teachings that are promising higher states. Just be aware. Are you getting disconnected from your body and living in your mind, in a higher state up here in your mind? All of this stuff is up here in your mind, right? Communities that preach love and light, but subtly shame or, don't pay attention to shadow work, emotion, anger, want to we don't want to feel that stuff, right? Or it's not spiritual to feel that stuff. Affirmations that tell you to manifest your dream life. I know because I was coaching in the Matrix before, that happens. Manifest your dream life without ever addressing the trauma, the fragmentation, or where that desire for that dream is coming from. Is that a dream of the ego? Is it about compensating? Is it, where is that coming from? The false light matrix plays into the same system of stimulation that we were talking about earlier. It feeds off of our seeking. We're seeking because we're not enough, right? And it rewards rewards you with a feeling of progress because you've been stimulated, and right? But it actually keeps you orbiting outside your core. So that's why heart coherence is such a radical act, because the true path home is not flashy. I know, I'm sorry. I only know this now because I was running for the finish line, right? Super flash. And I was determined to blast off and take off, and break through and all this stuff. And I found that was not the way. And again, I'm not judging anybody's path. You have to go through what you go through. You have to explore what you explore so that you understand all of the different frequencies that are out there. The path, the true path, let's say the path of the heart is not flashy. It is subtle. It is embodied. It is honest. It can't be faked. So, if you've ever felt like something was kind of off in a spiritual community, or you feel like you're chasing highs that leave you feeling kind of hollow, or, that's you're touching the false light there. And where do you think your energy goes, right? When you generate all of that energy, well, that's another form of loosh. We can talk about that another time. But where is that energy going? It's going into a grid somewhere. Look, the good news is the real is always right beneath all of the stimulation and the noise and the distraction. The real is always there. It's always, it's been waiting for us all along. It's right here. This is the deep, the quiet, the integrative energy of the heart-centered practice. You know, I told you at the beginning that I went through this practice because I was curious about it based on what a friend had said. I went through the process, and afterwards I measured my heart coherence, and it was not regulated. My coherence was low, and it was only when I slowed everything down and came back into heart focus in a very simple way that the coherence went back up. So that was interesting. You know, I keep coming back to doing less, feeling more inwardly, listening more, right? When I say feel, I mean sensing subtly. This is how we build our true inner authority, right? If you're constantly looking outside of yourself for guidance, you have to ask about everything, you don't trust yourself, you know. Well, there's a lack of inner authority, and the only way that we can build our inner authority is by going within. That's where it is, inner authority. It's in here. Right? And so stimulation keeps us like going out there, trying to feel something, you know. Everything is right here. Many have access to spiritual states, different brain waves, right? But that doesn't mean that it's coming from a place of wholeness. You can have all of that. You can experience all of that and remain fragmented and remain disembodied. So the heart doesn't need to perform. It invites, it remembers, it knows, right? For me, the heart always, like, connecting with the heart stream feels like relaxing, sitting back into a cozy chair, right? You know that wonderful feeling of, you feel at home. That's the heart. I'm gonna wave to some people. Wave. Hi, Satpuran. Hi, 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 hi. Waving at the waves. Happy you're all here. So, to close, let's talk about what are we energizing? What are we actually energizing? So this is, you know, for our self-inquiry. What energy are we tapping into in our practice? If you have a practice, right, what energy are you tapping into? You know, ask yourself honestly, are you chasing an experience or are you deepening your presence? Because they feel very different. And what part of you is driving your desire to be more spiritual? Where is that coming from? Because you can't be more spiritual than you already are. You are spirit itself. You are a spiritual being, a multidimensional being having this experience right now. You can't have this experience without already being a spiritual being. There's no way you can get more spiritual than you already are, right? So you don't have to chase anything. You just have to remember what you are and let go of the stuff that you're not. So again, this is not about right or wrong. It's just about discernment. Everything is about discernment. It's about recognizing that in an age of infinite stimulation everywhere you go, constant distraction, the real way back in is so simple and so quiet. It can only be heard through the heart. So let's just take a breath and come back to the simplicity of what we've explored today. We live in a world that conditions us to chase stimulation, and we have confused sensation with aliveness in all the different domains of life. And we've been conditioned to look for a spiritual connection through intensity or experiences that pull us up and out. But the truth is, we're not meant to ascend away from our humanity. And that's one more thing. If you hear any kind of like intimation that it sucks to be human, that humans are, a mistake, that it's better to be more spiritual so you can leave this plane behind, that's hating. That's hating on humanity. Human beings are a full universal fractal. We have no idea the power that we have here. I mean, this is the real power of integration of light and shadow. Humans are humane beings in our truth, when we're not being distorted and manipulated and squeezed, and we've just endured millennia of that, and we've become twisted by that experience, understandably. But if you just remember what you are, remember being human is a privilege. Every single one of you signed up for it and couldn't wait to get here, maybe until the last minute, and then it was like, oh no. I'm just kidding. I don't know. I think that's what happened to me. But anyway, it's a privilege. It's a choice. You're here by agreement. So don't ever get down on being human. It is a beautiful thing. Why do you think they've had to work so hard to suppress us? Because of what we are, right? And that's where the heart comes in again, right? The heart is generating this toroidal field around us. It's part of our remembrance of our wholeness to come back to the heart. So anything that distracts you away from the heart, that wants to pull you out of your body, that says that up here in the realms of light, it's better and all of that, question that. Question it. We're not meant to ascend away from our humanity. We're meant to remember who we are by becoming more fully present in our bodies, in our hearts now. Let me just amend what I just said. It's not that we are not meant to ascend away from humanity. Some people might need to have that experience. Not a problem. Again, I'm not judging. I'm asking you and myself to remember to be discerning. What is it that you are here to do? Because you remember, you know, your heart knows. Are you here to remember who you are as a human on this planet, and to integrate through your divine incarnational vessel, which is the human body? If that's what you feel you're here to do, then practices that pull you away from that embodiment are going to be problematic. So the mind can generate sparks, but the heart generates coherence. That's what it's there to do. And that coherence is what calls the real into form. What's real, right? How can you tell what's real? Well, ask the heart. I know it sounds like a cliche, but it's true, right? So I invite you now, just for a moment, to stop doing, even if you're just sitting, right, with your phone. Check in with yourself, drop everything, the concepts, the ideas, the search. Soften your breath. Notice your body. Just have that moment of being here and being aware that you're aware, right? You can put your hand on your heart if that helps. If you can feel yourself there, no drama, no story, no need to go anywhere, just being is enough. Just being is enough. And it's hard for the mind to believe that. And just feel yourself, your breath, and your body and your being settle into a slower rhythm. Inhaling and exhaling like a wave. No need to do anything in particular. Even I, right now, I can hear a voice that's like, you're live, don't let any dead air in. Why is it dead air? It's not dead, it's alive. Alive with presence, if we allow it to be. Right? So let's remember to root in what is real and to understand the big difference between stimulation and true aliveness. Because the whole thing out there is designed to stimulate you and distract you from the truth of who you are. If you root yourself in the real and you know the frequency of the real, it's simple. It's always kind. It's always gentle. It's always here. And that's all I want to say today. Next week we'll talk more about the heart. What it is and what it isn't. Thank you all so much for your presence here today. I've loved spending this time with you.